Yeah, dude. And then like life went on you as usual, bro. Like we would still show up for Snowopoly, and it was funny because like we'd be playing Snowopoly and people would be coming into the apartment to buy drugs. And I would have this like small sense of pride. I'm like, yo, like my investment's doing well. Like, let's go.
This is Modern Day Hippie. We are your homies who've done nearly every drug under the sun. Over 600 psychedelic trips and nearly every kind of bender you can possibly imagine have armed us with a universe of knowledge. I'm Yuki, and with my co-host Reggie, we talk about how we do drugs in a responsible, safe, and fun way to improve our lives. Before we dive in, and so we don't get sued, a quick legal disclaimer.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Our goal is to educate and inform others about the realities of substance use in an engaging and entertaining format. We share these experiences so you can learn from them without trying them yourself. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to attempt to recreate anything found in this episode or in any of our other content. We are not confessing to any acts stated in this podcast. The content in this episode should not be treated as factual or real in any way.
With that, we welcome you through our portal and hope you enjoy the show.
What's up, hippies? Hope you're having a vibey day so far. Today, we're going back into the archives, and I'm going to be telling you the story about the time I invested in a drug dealer.
Oh my God, you did not.
Wait, you didn't know about this?
I remember this.
Dude,
Fuck, bro.
This is a true story. It was honestly one of like the wildest, wackiest stories I've ever lived. And yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. And the fact that you don't remember it that well, I think will make this even that much more entertaining. But very briefly, before we jump into them, I want to bring up something that I'm super excited about around the drug related world. So not too long ago, I actually got the opportunity to invest in MAPS. So MAPS is the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. It's literally like the headlining pinnacle organization trying to push like psychedelic and MDMA research to get it approved for like actual medical usage. And they've existed as a nonprofit since like the 80s, but recently they've been testing specifically MDMA in therapies for treating PTSD. They're like wrapping up with phase 3 trials with the FDA, which is like the final step. And they're actually spinning out a separate company out of their nonprofit that is like a public benefit corporation or a B Corp. So it's like, this is like a for-profit enterprise, but it has clauses in its like founding document that say that it needs to prioritize doing like good things for the world. And it's cool. I'm just really happy to like put some money into this, something that I think is not only going to be a great investment, but like it's just like MAPS is like the big freaking elephant in the room with this stuff, and they definitely have the best chance of getting like FDA approved psychoactive assisted therapies, which is just fucking incredible.
That's huge, dude. That's huge. That's cool that you get to be a part of that.
Yeah, man. We'll see how it goes.
Hey hippies, we hope you're enjoying the show so far. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and are having a good time, you need to come over to YouTube and subscribe to the Modern Day Hippie YouTube channel. We publish exclusive video content, and I promise you the experience is richer and more interesting. So if you're getting any value at all, stop what you're doing, open up the YouTube app, and subscribe at Modern Day Hippie. If you're watching this on YouTube and aren't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Go press subscribe. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right. Time to dive back into the history books, into their personal archives, and tell you guys about the drug dealer investment. So this all happened several years ago. Your boy Yuki was still in college, and I had just gotten a like pretty respectable signing bonus for a new job that I was going to start while I was in college. And so I had all this money, and I'm like a pretty financially savvy guy. So I'm like, oh, I don't need all this money right now. So I'm going to try to invest most of it until I do need it. And, traditionally, people tell you like invest it in the stock market, blah, blah, blah. But this was all happening during the time of COVID. And if you go back and you remember what the financial markets were doing during COVID, like everyone was losing their goddamn minds. Like way before things came roaring back, like everything was going down. Like people thought this was the end of the world. This was the end of like a bunch of companies.
Yeah, dark times, man.
Yeah. This was like this was literally like March. It was like March, April, like literally like the way that we found out that the rest of our like school experience would be online was just we just never came back from spring break. It was just forever spring break.
Damn, that was fucked, dude.
Yeah. And all these cities were just like ghost towns. That was a wild time. I remember around that time seeing like the drone shots of Manhattan in like downtown Paris with like not a soul in sight. Yeah, that was fucking crazy. I can't believe that happened, honestly. And so anyway, and that time I had a good amount of money I wanted to invest, like several thousands of dollars. And so I was kind of at a loss of like, what do I do with this money? Let's say I want to make a little bit of returns on it and have it back in like a year or two. And so in parallel with this train of thought, Reggie and I were also engaging in a COVID era tradition called Snowopoly, which honestly deserves its own episode. But in a nutshell, we had our kind of like our COVID quarantine pod. And the way we would mark the passage of the weeks, because they were just all blending together at that point, was we'd meet up. I think, do you remember if it was Friday or Saturday nights?
It was Friday nights.
It was Friday nights.
Friday
okay.
night.
Yeah. We'd always get together at the same apartment of one of our buddies. I think there were probably like 7, 8, maybe 9 of us.
Yeah.
And we'd play. Yeah. And so we'd play a game of Monopoly. But in this game of Monopoly, when you pass go, in addition to collecting your $200, you also get to do a line of coke. And this was just like a fucking heinous tradition. Like when I think back on this, I'm like, this is one of the most degenerate things we've ever done.
Crazy combo,
but it was
dude.
so much fun, bro. Like I have never done that much coke in my life. Honestly, because of Snowopoly, I almost never do coke anymore.
Dude, it's like you already like experienced it. Like you're good. Like you know what I mean? Like
100%. No, dude, and we'd go so late playing Monopoly. Like you guys probably know, if you've ever played Monopoly, like an actual game of Monopoly played through to the end is like 5 hours long, right? So anyway,
you're just doing blow the whole time, which is kind of perfect because then you just stay up and keep on playing, and then it gets like more and more businessy and rowdy because people are just coked out.
Yeah, that's where we get heated. Honestly, like some of my favorite memories. Full stop. But one of the best parts of Snowopoly, and the reason why we always met at that specific apartment, was because one of the guys who lived in that apartment was actually like a local area drug dealer. And I feel like he was moving a decent amount of product.
It was 6 figures. He was moving 6 figures for sure. Like he told me he was moving 6 figures.
Yeah. And this guy, like, honestly, like super nice dude. Like I got to know him like before he was a drug dealer, and like outside of that, like he was just like a homie. And I would see just in the apartment, like he would just have like massive stacks of cash laying around. And I was like, damn, bro, this is so sketchy. Like, cause he also has people coming in the apartment to like buy stuff. So you just don't want to be leaving out like stacks of cash.
The tweakers, bro. That would come late at night.
Yeah.
Dude, that money gun. Do you remember that shit? He literally bought a fucking money gun and just started shooting girls everywhere.
Bro. Okay. There's more to that story. I'm getting there.
Really? Jeez, I didn't know that.
Yes. So, one of the nights when we were playing Snowopoly, we're making business deals in Monopoly. And I had this thought that I was like, all right, like, I'm someone who understands like startups and investing. I'm like, our drug dealer is kind of just a startup. They're just, they're just buying inventory and then selling it at a markup. And so one of the nights I was like, yo, CK, what if I hypothetically invested in your drug business? Like I acquire a portion of it, you keep doing your thing, and then I'm gonna give you this lump sum of cash. Presumably it would let him buy like a larger bulk amount of drugs and make a better margin off of it. And he was like thinking about it for a sec. And he's like, all right, Yuki, like come back tomorrow and let's chat. Maybe we can make this work. So like, all right, bet. And then head back in the game, back into Snowopoly we go. And the rest of the night was a blur. So fast forward to the next day, I walk back over to the apartment because it was like a 5-minute walk from my place. I come over with my laptop, sit down. There's like me and CK in the living room, and we whip out our laptops and our fucking Excel spreadsheets, and we're like, all right, like let's figure out some terms that we can structure for this financial investment. And this guy, like, he was also like a business major, like he knew his financial things as well. So we're like, all right, like, what do you currently value your business at? Like, what is, how much amount of inventory do you have on hand? How much cash do you have on hand, et cetera, et cetera. It was
y'all went
like,
through all those details.
yeah. And honestly, a lot of it, like, he kind of just gave ballparks. He's like, I'm not 100% sure. But we try to make like as educated of a deal that was like beneficial for both of us. Like, the goal was not for me to screw him over at all. And then, like, for him as well, like, I wouldn't even have mentioned this to him if I didn't like trust him as a person. And so I felt very confident that he wouldn't screw me over. And so we sat down, we came up with some like valuations and stuff. And we're like, all right, like, how do we want to like actually structure this deal? Because there's a few different ways you can do it, right? You could do like an equity investment, which is like, I would put in some amount of money, and then I don't see any money back until like he liquidates or I decide to liquidate or whatever. Or we could structure it as like a bond. So a bond is basically like you make an investment and then you get like monthly interest payments for it. And then at the end, you get the full amount back. So for example, like with the bond structure, like you can invest $1,000. Let's say it's like 10% interest, which would be a shit ton. But you would get, technically 1/12 of 10%, like every month, of money back. And then at the end of the term, you'd get back your $1,000 as well. And those are generally more like secure ways to invest because you are seeing some direct income from them. And I was like, all right, like, this bond structure sounds interesting. Like, what interest rate do you think sounds reasonable? And so looking at the numbers, he's like, all right, you know what? I could do a bond structure that pays out 15% interest, but instead of doing over a year, it was going to be over, I believe, 9 months, which is like a hell of a deal. Like, it's not like, like, it's not like a, like 5-10x your money, but if you're just looking at it on like, just like pure returns, like, that is not a bad deal at all.
What was the interest rate, maybe?
So it was like 15%,
Damn,
but for 9 months.
But through 9 months, damn.
Yeah. So basically, for example, if you put in $1,000, you get back a total of $150 profit, and then your $1,000 back. And then, yeah, that was like, I think like a fair percentage on both ends. And we also considered like, this was a risky investment, right? Like, if he gets caught, anything hits the fan, then like that money is like gone, right? I'm never going to see that ever again. So I think it was a fair, like, risk adjusted return. And again, in the context of just every stock was shitting the bed at the time. So it was like, this is good. Like, I feel confident in this. Like, I've seen how he runs his business. Like, I trust him. So I was like, all right, let me think about this for a little bit. And so I get back home and I realize that I have some equally enterprising friends out and about in my life who might be interested in an opportunity like this. And so I hit up a couple.
Your boy Reggie.
Yeah. And so I hit up you. I hit up a couple other guys. And it was like, hey, here's the situation. Like, here's the terms. Like, are you down? And you were down for a little bit. I had friends who were down for like a decent amount. They're like,
yeah, I wasn't down for that much just because I didn't have as much liquid.
Yeah. They're like, all right, like, we trust you. And honestly, some of these guys, like, I'd done like some schemes with before, like, just some various like crypto bullshit or like drop shipping bullshit. So it's like, all right, like, I invest in your schemes, time to invest in my scheme.
Nice.
Dude. And so I ended up syndicating a total of, it was literally like, you're at the club and the music is thumping, but you've got nothing left in the tank. So what do? Sniff some cacao. Yep, you heard that right. Sniff some cacao. It's the hottest new trend in the club and party scene. One bump-sized sniff of raw chocolate powder contains the caffeine equivalent to a half cup of coffee, and boom, it hits instantly. And the best part is you can now sniff cacao anytime, anywhere. Right out in the open, in front of the DJ booth or the stage, even at the VIP table with your friends. Now, how does that happen without drawing unwanted attention? Well, Snowgo's spring-loaded bump straws make it possible. These classy, triple mirror polished bump straws are the safest,
most discreet way to enjoy sniffing cacao. In fact, you've most likely already seen people wearing Snogo's bump straws as pendants around their necks without even knowing it. Discover why sniffing cacao using Snogo bump straws is being called the biggest revolution in partying since the invention of rock and roll. Jump on over to snogostraws.com to learn more. That's SNOGOSTRAWS.com and use discount code MDH25 for 25% off your entire order. I think it was like 30 to 40 grand.
No way. It was that much.
Yeah.
Damn. Holy shit. You're like
And
a
so,
bundler for drugs.
Dude. Yeah, dead ass. Yeah. So like I put in 5K, and then my other friends like compiled. I think I was putting money in on behalf of like, I don't know, must have been like 7, 8 people, somewhere around there. So it was like, damn, like this is crazy. And so the next problem was like, how could these people get me their money without raising any alarms? So I literally had to do some research on like, like how much money can you move between bank accounts without like, raising any like red flags or like triggers in the systems, shit like that. And over the course of probably a month, I had friends send me money through different things like Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, like direct deposit, check, etc. So I ended up having all this money in my checking account because I honestly didn't know any other way to do it. And so when I was talking to CK, he was like, all right, yeah, like this business operates in cash. So like, I'm going to need all that money in cash. And he was totally on board with this deal that I had literally syndicated for him. So there was this day where I walked into like the local bank branch, like a block away from where I was living at the time. I couldn't go to the ATM because you can't withdraw that much money from the ATM. So I had to walk in. I had asked the teller for, I'll take like 30 grand, somewhere around there. She's like, okay. She hands me like this thick ass envelope, just like stacked with like hundreds. I walk out of the bank building. I walk one block like into the like residential area where we were living. I was texting CK to like meet me there. We meet and we're both kind of like smirking as we see each other. We're like, damn, like I can't believe we actually made this happen. Like this is like not an experience that many people like get to have. Like regardless how it turns out, like in my head, this was also like all kind of an adventure to an extent. And so I walk a block from the bank. I'm facing CK. I like hand him the envelope, but before I let go of it, I look him in the eye and I'm like, CK, it's either the best decision I've ever made or the worst decision of my life. Please don't fuck me over. And he looks at me back and he's like, dude, trust me. And I'm like, all right. So I let go of the envelope. We bid farewell and I walk back to my apartment, like wondering if I should be rethinking my life choices or not. And then the order of events after this was, so I think shortly after I gave him the money, I was like, if I'm going to do this deal, like, let me just go like all in, like if I lose this money, like it sucks, but because I'm investing in it, it's not money that I need to survive right now. So it's like, let me just go all in. And so I was like, hey, like, what if instead of giving me like monthly coupon payments, because every month he was going to send me money and I had to redistribute it like to you and to like everyone else around the country who was like getting these coupon payments. And so I asked CK, I'm like, hey, like if I didn't like ask you for any coupon payments, like could you bump up my my like rate of return? And he's like, all right, yeah. He's like, honestly, I can like double your money back, but the timeline is going to be like a little bit hazy, right? He was like, it's not going to be 6-9 months. Like, it could be 9, it could be 12, it could be 15. And I was like, at that point, I was like, all right, like I have trust this guy enough this far. Let me just give a little bit more. And by that point, I already structured the deal with everyone else. So I was going back on that. And honestly, I don't think he would have been down because this was definitely like a bigger ask, like for me.
I would not have been down.
I definitely got like a good deal on this. Yeah, dude. And then like life went on you as usual, bro. Like we would still show up for Snowopoly, and it was funny because like we'd be playing Snowopoly and people would be coming into the apartment to buy drugs. And I would have this like small sense of pride. I'm like, yo, like my investment's doing well. Like, let's go. And then, and at some point I was like, I was a very passive investor. There are a few times when I'm like, yo, CK, like, you need to stop leaving like stacks of cash like around your kitchen. Like, come on, man. This just isn't safe. Like that's not good.
Yeah, dude, he was wild with it. You
Yeah,
like
yeah,
open the cabinet in the kitchen and it's just like pounds of shrooms. I'm like, bro, like hide that shit
yeah,
better.
yeah, exactly. No, and there's actually one day where I was watching him like count money. Or no. Okay, so I was watching him count money, but the way he was counting money, because he was dealing with so much cash, what he would do is like he would use his drug scale, like where he measured out like coke
Oh
and
my
stuff.
god.
He would weigh the number of bills because he knew like the average weight of just like a bill, and if he knew they're all 20s, then he would just like estimate it. And I was like, bro, like, come on, man, like, this is too much. And so I actually did a few like test runs. I'm like, all right, like with that calculation, let me like measure the stack of bills and let me actually count it to like see how close it is to the actual amount. And it was like close-ish, but I'm like, you can still be short like a couple $100 on like a big enough stack. And I'm like, as my investment, I don't want you doing that kind of shit. So I was like, CK, I will
Nice.
literally just offer to buy you like a money counter, like just, a thing that
That's
automatically
how we got
counts
that
bills.
money counter?
Well, okay. So what I remember happening was that I told him I would buy it for him. He was like, no, I got it. Like, no worries. You're good. I come back the next week and he had bought the fucking money gun. And I'm like, yo, like, come on, man. Like, oh,
That money gun was dope though.
oh yeah. Like a real money gun. That was a vibe for sure.
With real money in it.
Yeah.
Damn. I remember him telling me that like drug dealer money is like just monopoly money. Because you never know like if it's ever gonna be pulled from you or if you're just gonna lose it all. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of true. It's like the saying where it's like $100 clean is worth like $10 dirty or something like that. I don't know what the ratio is, but there's like a saying like that, and it's like it's so true, dude. Like low key, like
oh, as in like the thought of like having like clean the money if you get it dirty, like
as in like
like
if
sorry,
you,
to like wash it. Like,
well, it's
like
not even about washing it. It's more like if you earn it like legitimately, like not through like drugs and shit like that, then like it's literally worth more for like a number of reasons. Like you can literally do more with it, especially at scale.
yeah. I mean, I think part of it's like mental, like you feel like you earned it. But I mean, yeah, the issue with all cash is like, most of the financial infrastructure today is electronic. And
well,
the
it's not even
reason
just that,
why,
it's just suspicious. Like you literally can't spend it all, like in the same way that you would spend it if it was in your checking account. Like,
yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, I've thought about it. I'm like, I would probably just use it to pay for like every grocery run and every meal I eat out. But like, I wouldn't use it for rent and shit, which yeah, can be tough. No, dude. Also, like another reason why I felt like a little bit morally better about investing in CK was I knew that he was actually like looking to get out of the dealing game like in the near future. And he was just kind of like looking to just get like a big enough like nut from dealing before he stepped out. Cause he also knew like at that point he'd been pretty deep in it for a while. Like he just knew that
you're just getting sketch.
Yeah. And it's like if you stay in it too long, like you're gonna get caught. And like also, yeah, things are getting sketchier. Like I remember he told me like he'd had like guns pulled on him and shit. Like he's like, yeah, man, it's just not worth it. Like I was trying to make like a decent amount of money and then like kind of like retire like from
dude. That's the fucked part, and that's what I'm saying about the monopoly money thing is he didn't even have a great exit. Like he like what ended up making him stop is that like the city got raided and like he like quickly like shut down and like pretty much like lost like he didn't like lose money, but he like lost all the profit he was going to make. So it's like he literally told me that like he walked away from like dealing drugs like pretty much like with nothing to really show for it other than like in the moment, right? But like it's not like he walked away rich. It's not like he made his money and left. No. That's not the nature of drug dealing though. Like that's the fucked part about it. It's like that's why it's monopoly money. Like dirty money is dirty money, dude. Like it's fucked, but it's true. So if anyone out there is thinking about selling drugs, like, either you gotta be really fucking good at that shit or you just gotta like play the risk game and exit like properly.
Yeah, that's tough. No, I agree. And I didn't know that was the end state because I know all that happened a decent amount of time after our investment into him.
But yeah,
shitty
dude,
rate.
talk about the return, man. What ended up happening?
Yeah. So, and then like life went on as usual for next like 6-9 months. You know, eventually we stopped playing Snowplay because we stopped being degenerates, and then the college semester ended and whatnot. And like he was really good about sending the monthly coupon payments to me, and then I would redistribute them to you guys. Not exactly on the same date every month, so it wasn't like kind of sketch, but just like batching it out. And we still like keep in touch. Like I wasn't seeing him in person nearly as much, but you know, he just kind of keep me posted on how things were going at like a very high level. I think it was one day, like 9 or 10 months later, he texted me. He's like, all right, like I'm ready to return your money to you. I can give you double what you had invested. And I'm like, shit, okay, say less. And this was when I was living with you, right, Reggie?
Dude, I remember this day, bro. Is this when you just walked in with the backpack? Oh
Yeah,
my, dude, how'd he
bro.
even hand you that much cash? Like,
Bro, yeah. I mean, he like we counted it out together. It was 10 grand in cash. There's literally some photos in my camera roll of like what 10 grand in cash looks like.
bro, I just remember you coming home and putting all that shit out on the counter and just counting it. And I'm just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I didn't realize that we were this deep into that shit. Like, I think
Yeah,
I only
bro.
invested like $1,000, bro. Like,
Yeah, dude,
yeah, that's
that shit
crazy, man. That
was,
you doubled your money with him. That's nuts.
dude, yeah, that was such a high. I was like, I felt so good about like putting my trust in him. I'm glad like things had worked out, and it seemed like he was doing well at the time, and that was cool. Like to this day, that's probably the best investment I've ever made. Well,
Bro, you got lucky, bro. Like, he
yeah,
like stopped dealing like not long after that.
yeah, that's fair. But
But yeah,
hey,
no,
it
definitely
made
the best investment I've ever heard of. Like, that's for damn sure. Like, doubling your
yeah,
money in 9 months, like,
right. No, and it's one hell of a story for sure. Like that was an adventure that I got to live, which was sick. And then the the epilogue to this was I had all this cash, but I wanted to get it into my actual like electronic bank account so I could use the money for like normal things. And there's a couple limits in the banks. Like if you deposit over a certain amount in one go, it's flagged as a taxable event. So you have to pay taxes on it. So like, let me avoid that. And then also at an ATM, I think you're only allowed to deposit like 20 or 25 bills like per transaction. And so literally spread out over a couple of months, my girlfriend and I would just go through like drive-through ATMs. We just deposit like a random amount, and we portion it up into like 4 or 5 different trips over a couple of months to try to not be too sketch. So eventually got all 10 grand to my bank account. It was normal money. And as far as I know, to this day, nothing bad has happened to me. Hopefully I'm not on any lists or shit like that. And yeah, honestly, as I think about it, like there are plenty of like primarily cash businesses where they're dealing with way
they're
more money than
doing
that.
way crazier shit than you.
Yeah. So I honestly, it wasn't something I was like too worried about, but I was like, just in case, let me be safe.
Oh yeah, dude, that's a wild story, man. I remember that shit with the backpack and the cash. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize you had invested that much, or like you got that much returns. Like I was like, shit,
Yeah,
crazy.
dude, I went pretty deep, bro.
Good times, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But hey, that's the story of the best investment I ever made. And you know, it's funny. I have these little like dreams of like one day becoming like super successful in some startup or business endeavor. And I'm like on a stage or something being interviewed and like, what's the best investment you've ever made, Yuki? And I'm like, let me tell you a story. They're probably expecting some like stock or startup shit.
Oh
like,
my
nah,
god.
drug
You're
dealer,
just like
bro.
on
Drug dealer.
stage, like in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
On TV. Like,
Yeah. That'd be
hilarious.
fucking hilarious, dude. Yeah.
But cool. Well, that was a sick story, man. Good times. And with that, that's today's pod.
You've been listening to Modern Day Hippie. As you exit the portal, we have just one small ask of you. If you learned something new today, had a laugh, or resurfaced a drug story of your own, we want to hear about it. Drop us a comment on YouTube and show us some love on your favorite podcasting platforms. Internet algorithms really dog on us because of the topics that we discuss, so your support goes even further here than you might think. We'll catch you next week.